Please welcome to the stage Mike Hopkins, head of Prime Video and Amazon MGM Studios at Amazon, for a conversation with Bloomberg's Caroline Hyde.
Watch a bit of WNBA on Amazon now.
We have the WNBA this season too, but then we'll have a lot more of it next year.
You have been so busy, Mike, and I just want to go over like what 2024 has meant to you. There's not much on the internet about someone who has one of the biggest jobs in entertainment. We call it humble, we call it smart, but I've been rifling through your back history, and I know that you first started selling door-to-door ads, basically, and now we're back doing ads. But before we get into ads, I want to hear about 2024 and just what a mega year it's been.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks for having me. It's nice to meet you in person too.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's been a big year for us. A lot of it obviously the groundwork was laid over the last 3 or 4 years, but we started the year on the programming front with a little movie called Saltburn. Anybody see Saltburn here? And that just kind of blew up the internet and became a big hit for us in January.
Us Brits, we do that.
Yeah, it was big. I have the toilet in our, or the bathtub in I do. Anyway, oh God, how did we get there?
Carry on. What else do we have?
But then right after that, we had a couple of additional movies that launched. Roadhouse was a big hit for us at the beginning of the year, and same with Idea of You. And then we had Fallout, became a big global franchise for us. Boys Season 4 was amazing. And obviously, we just had Lord of the Rings of Power finale last week. So it's been.
And you're watching all of this yourself?
Oh, every minute, multiple times. But so on the programming front, Jen Salke and her team have really started to hit a cadence of hits that we're really proud of and excited about. And what's coming in the future, I'm even more excited about. Yeah.
Let's dig in a little bit on the advertising side of things, and indeed, sort of what. Obviously, people are coming to you for the content, but how have you managed, what have you learned in those 9 months? So it was January the 29th when you first turned it on.
Yeah.
How many of us are paying to not get ads?
Yeah. Well, we don't disclose those numbers publicly,
Oh,
but
you're just
quite
friends.
honestly, not as many as you would think. The advertising load is very light because of the way we offered advertising on Prime. And so far, we've been happy both on the customer side because we've not seen the levels of churn or cancellations that some might have thought, and on the advertiser side, it's been really exciting to see the response from advertisers. We just finished our first upfront a couple months ago, and we exceeded our expectations there, and we're just excited to see what happens in the future here.
Can you increase prices on the ads?
Well, we like the CPMs we got. I think we held price pretty well. I think when you put this amount of inventory into the ad market,
it annoys some competitors.
It's going to put some pressure on pricing, but we're happy with where we ended up.
Okay. And what, therefore, about third-party platforms as well? I mean, we're starting to see that with Netflix offering it to Google or some of the inventory. Would you go there?
Well, we have our own DSP, the Amazon DSP, and our ads team is building that network out pretty aggressively right now. We have third-party supply that Paul Kotis, who runs ad sales for us, he's got obviously our stores inventory, as we call it, on Amazon.com, and a variety of media and entertainment properties as well.
I know you don't disclose numbers, but Bloomberg Intelligence, just to give them a little nod, they thought that $2 billion could be your run rate for ads for 2024, could run up to $5 billion for 2025. Are they sort of ballpark?
We'll see. I like that. I like this.
Okay. Achievable? Achieved?
We'll see.
Okay. But then let's talk a little bit about what you offer, because I'm trying to get our head around. You offer advertising because the content is so great, but the content isn't just your own originals. It's not just movies that we've talked about, but it's also, well, the sports we'll dig into, and partnerships, partner channels.
Yeah.
Why bring in other partner channels? What's in it for them?
Yeah, well, so what we've tried to become over the last 4 or 5 years is, a first-stop entertainment hub for consumers around the world. What I mean by that is not only do we have the Prime content that we talked about at the top, including Thursday Night Football, we have our 4th game of the season tomorrow night, the NBA coming next year, NASCAR, but around the world we also have Champions League throughout Europe and a variety of sports as well. So we've got our Prime programming, But we also offer the world's largest TVOD store, rent and buy movies and TV shows in the world. And then on top of that, we have over 100 partner streaming services that you can subscribe to right inside of our application. And what we found is consumers, if you think about the number of apps and subscriptions you have, it's kind of hard to keep track of it all. You're not sure exactly where that show or movie might be. And so what we've noticed is people realize they can subscribe to Max or Paramount Plus or League Pass or Crunchyroll, et cetera, inside of Prime Video. We see a lot more engagement. We are able to get subscribers for those businesses at a real attractive rate, and it's an exciting part of our business. In fact, we're going to announce tonight that we are adding Apple TV Plus to our Prime Video channels propositions in the not too distant future. And
why Apple TV Plus?
Well, they have great programming, and we've had a good partnership with Apple on a number of fronts. But our companies do a lot of business together, and I want to thank Eddie Q, who I know isn't here tonight, but he and his team have done a great job with this deal, and we're excited to get it going.
What's in it for Apple?
Well, I think what we offer channel partners is hundreds of millions of subscribers around the world that have access to their channel.
Hundreds of millions, 200 million.
There's another number we don't talk a lot about, but you can probably easily find information about me than our number of subscribers online.
Yes, you were hard enough.
But I think having this engagement around the world with Prime members accessing Prime Video is a real great platform for other partners to be able to reach them, easy access to the subscriber base, one-stop shop, easy navigation, one-click subscription right in one app. And I think that's what's attracting partners.
How does that negotiation start? Who picked up the phone to who first?
Oh, gosh. We've been talking for a while. It took a while, but we're happy that we're here.
You wooed them? Were they easy to coax?
Well, what we've really spent a lot of time doing is figuring out how do we make it easy to be a partner. We have leadership principles at Amazon. One of them is customer obsession.
How many of them are now?
Oh, there's
14?
12 or 14. Yeah. And so as we look at our partners as customers, so what we're spending a lot of time on is how do we make it easy for them to onboard? How do we make it easy for them to look at our service just as it were a device? Yeah. And so we want to give them the same benefits as you would get if you were on Apple TV or Fire TV or Roku, being part of our ecosystem. And I think it's worked out pretty well.
Does that help from your own background? You're someone who's done all parts of media, like old school TV, where I'm still fighting the good fight, but they then go into movies and content. You've been a customer of Amazon before you've come to lead it. Yeah. Does that help from your perspective?
Yeah, I've in my career I've been able to be a customer, a competitor, a supplier at Sony, and so I think I've gotten to know the company pretty well through all those crossing of paths.
So let's talk a little bit more about the content you're offering and sports. I want to dwell in there a little bit. You were at Fox. You know what it takes to build must-watch sports channels. So it's got really expensive. How do you feel about the price point, for example, like NBA, WNBA? Yeah,
well, I mean, we're happy with the deal we got. We obviously have analytics that tell us it's going to be accretive and very good for our customers. But what we really like about sports is that as television viewership is migrating from linear television via cable, satellite, et cetera, into a streaming environment, people's tastes didn't change. They still want to watch football games and basketball games, and they want to watch movies and TV shows. And so what we're trying to build is sort of the next generation of an entertainment service, and not just be solely focused on movies, television, VOD. And so in addition to live sports, we were talking backstage about fast channels have become a big part of our service as well. Yeah. We have Bloomberg on there as well. I've been watching it this week. And so, we're trying to be a hub of all things content for customers in one app.
What about, talking of watching Bloomberg, what about talent for things like NBA? You're going to get, I'm not free, I'm sad. But
we got a little time, it's not until next year.
A wannabe or?
Shaq's great. I love Shaq.
Okay.
I'm a longtime Laker fan.
You're also not just perhaps a ball guy when it comes to NBA. I know you like MLB as well. I think you actually wanted to be a baseball player at one point.
Oh, yeah, a long, long time ago, sure. Who didn't?
Who didn't? Well, let's talk a little bit about, therefore, local sports. Is that something that you and I wanting to be getting more into?
We've looked at local sports. We have an equity position in the YES Network. And in New York, we actually offer 20 Yankees games a season on Prime Video to Prime customers. And what's been interesting, that's basically the old broadcast package that used to exist in market. And what we've seen every single year, ratings and viewership of our Yankee games is up 15 or 20% every single year.
Yeah.
And so I think what's happening is people's muscle memory is changing. The awareness that there is live sport on streaming is changing over time, and people are finding it. And so Thursday Night Football, for example, was up 25% in its second season. Through 3 games, it's up 20% this season. And I think that's just going to continue. And over time, I think live sport is going to be viewed just as often and as frequently on streaming as it is on linear TV.
Talking of football, NFL, will they exercise an early opt-out, do you think? How expensive is that going to get?
Early in terms of the deals, we'll see. We still have a few years to see what happens. I think the marketplace, the media landscape is changing so dramatically. A lot's going to happen between now and then.
How is it changing dramatically?
Well, I think, I've seen a lot of people in the room who've written a lot about this, but obviously the cable and satellite industry the cable channel business has eroded over the last, actually almost since the second I left. I had great timing to leave that part of the business, but what you've seen is this multi-channel big bundle decline every year for the last decade or so, and I think that's put a lot of pressure on the legacy media companies, and so that's the catalyst, I think, of all of this change that we're seeing.
Then spin it forward, and it feels for me, there's you, there's Disney, there's Netflix. What happens to the rest? Do they all end up as partner channels on you? Or?
I think everyone's got different strategies there. I mean, most of the companies have incredible IP. You look around the media landscape, and there's tremendous IP. Everyone's got movie studios and television studios. I think folks are just going to have to pick their strategy and go aggressively after it, understanding that the legacy cable business is on a decline, and it's probably not going back the other way. So how do you deal with that, I think, is a question for each of those companies.
Is consolidation something that you're expecting among peers?
Well, I think pretty much everybody does at some level, right? It's a bit of a parlor game right now to figure out what's going to happen between the companies that are out there, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Would you be buying?
Well, we've bought
done some
one.
buying,
We did that. One of the first things we did when I got to Amazon was bought MGM, which we were fortunate, and when we were looking to see how to bolster our content business with library and IP, that MGM existed and didn't have those challenges. It didn't have a bunch of cable channels and those kinds of things to manage, so it was pretty clean, which was really attractive to us. And then we've got 50 years worth of IP that we get to mine, and we've just talked about Roadhouse being one, and we've got a lot of projects in development.
What about those Bond movies?
Well, we're working on those too. We'll see. I wish I could announce something there, but we're not ready to.
I mean, how much, when you've got such legacy IP that you can drill into, how easy or hard is it in these contractual negotiations when you buy such a storied studio such as MGM?
It is, and we take it seriously. It's got a huge legacy. In fact, we're on the Culver Studios lot, which at various times has been MGM. MGM actually was the Sony lot for a long time. We're putting up their 75-year-old sign, MGM Studios sign, on our lot at Culver Studios here soon. And but regarding the IP, I think it's really important that when you have the kinds of IP that exists at MGM and it exists other places, you have to handle reimagining that IP with care. And you have to have, and I think both for the IP itself, but consumers aren't looking necessarily just for a remake of something. So if you're going to do things, we think you have to do it with a different angle, a different take, and it has to be good for audiences. So, that's kind of how we've approached everything. While Mr. and Mrs. Smith is a great show, it had 17 Emmy Award nominations this year. It's existing IP, but Donald Glover came in with a completely different take on the franchise, and we're excited about what the future of that one will be too.
What's the future of Rings of Power? Talking of
Rings of Power is doing great. We're really excited. We just had the finale. Just watching the numbers over the weekend, people are binging it now because we released it weekly. It's exciting, and I think we're going to have a lot of Rings of Power to come.
Okay, good. Good news coming for many who want the season 3. Let's talk about originals a little bit more, therefore, and your commitment. Like, what pace are you churning these things out at the moment, and how does this ultimately allow you to be standalone profitable. I know that's Andy Jass's aim.
Yeah, Andy, Andy said that publicly a bunch of times. He's not wrong. We're going to get there, and I think we were talking about advertising. That's going to obviously be a catalyst towards that. But mainly what we wanted is to have a model, a business model with Prime and advertising and all the other lines of business that we have that is viable in and of itself and economically profitable for Amazon, and that's going to happen.
When?
Very soon.
What's very soon? 6 months very soon? A year very soon?
But ultimately, it's obviously to drop to the bottom line.
Is it a year?
So we'll have that profitability, but it's mainly to what they say. They say answer the question you want to answer.
Yes. Good training.
But mainly, it's because we want to invest more. And so what I think that what's really exciting is that with the additional revenues that we're generating, we're pouring it back in. I don't know that we would have done the NBA, for example, if we weren't doing advertising. And I know that we wouldn't be making as much programming over the next couple of years as we're going to if it weren't for these new revenue streams. And so our intent is to put this back into the programming, back into the business, so that we can drive more consumer adoption to our services and really for the consumer. So we're excited about all of those things.
When you think of a consumer who's suddenly inundated with a whole wealth of content they can never hope to watch.
Yeah.
How are you serving it to them?
Yeah.
I think of Amazon, I immediately think of artificial intelligence. I mean, is that the way that you lean into a consumer experience right now?
Well, when I was talking about this first stop entertainment service that we're building, we have a lot of programming. We have more content on our app than any other app out there when you include all of our partners, the TVOD catalog, Prime. And so personalization is a hard challenge for everyone. It's really hard when you have all the brands that we have. And so we reimagined our user interface, and we launched a new user interface a few months ago. It's working really well. It's leaning into partners. But the personalization piece, we've made a lot of strides on. I actually think from an entertainment streaming standpoint, AI, generative AI, is really going to be meaningful personalization and recommendations, because the connections that you can make between pieces of programming, movies, TV shows, et cetera, and consumer behavior is much easier to do the millions of times a minute you have to do it around the world in an app like ours. And so that's, I think, for us going to be the big consumer-facing aha moment. I don't know that it'll be like, all of a sudden people go, oh, gosh, they have better personalization. But it's going to happen, and you're going to see it over the next year or so as we adopt it.
That's a lot of tech investment. I imagine the sheer infrastructure investment you've had to put in to carry live event sports is extraordinary. Are you going to lean ever more into live events? Are there going to be these tentpole moments?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I found when I started in a couple weeks before the pandemic, so not that long ago really, is that the company had done a lot of investing, mostly in Europe, on live streaming. If you go back to like 2018, 2019, it wasn't obvious that you were going to be able to stream premium sports at scale exclusively anywhere in the world. People would say it would break, it won't work. And so they had done a really good job. The technical specifics there, but they proved it out. And I think the fact that the company had made that investment paved the way for us to do a deal with the NFL and then ultimately the NBA. And so I look at that as a pretty big advantage for us, that we've got that investment, and we're able to do it. I think leagues have come to trust us that we're going to be able to do it in a way that's a great experience for customers and represents their sport really well. So it's definitely something we're going to lean into.
So it sounds like you're leaning into everything. Am I right?
Well, we do talk a lot about prioritization. So you really can't be all things to all people. But I think, we're Amazon, and we want to be a lot of things to a lot of people. So it does mean that we're doing a lot of different, covering a lot of ground. Because consumers, we have, like I said, hundreds of millions of consumers around the world accessing our app, using it. Everyone's different. Everyone's got different tastes. And so if you're going to be successful in a business like this, you can't be that narrow. You actually have to be. And so, I like to say we're sort of a broadcast network on steroids, or it's 5-dimensional chess to try to figure out what does everybody in this room want to watch tonight, right? Everyone's got a different set of tastes and behaviors and things they want to watch.
Yeah.
And so it's an exciting part of the business, and I think we're probably in like the first or second inning of that journey, but we're getting better every year at it.
What's your taste? What's the one thing the best thing you've ever commissioned or loved to watch?
Oh gosh, I think, well, you know, the first thing that not the first thing, but the first big commissioning show stuttering all of a sudden. The first thing that we commissioned when I was at Hulu that was big was The Handmaid's Tale, and I'm super proud of that. And I actually get to be on the other side of it because MGM makes The Handmaid's Tale for Hulu. So that was great. I think in terms of what my tastes are, I like a lot of TV and movies. There's not a lot of things I don't like, but things that I'm really into right now, I guess, is that kind of...
Or tell us one thing on the slate that you're excited about.
Oh, on the slate coming? Well, I'll give you two. The first one is Red One, big movie we're launching in about a month.
I just watched the ad for it.
Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans. It's really good. I've seen it half a dozen times. It's exciting. I think it can be a real franchise for us. And then we're reimagining the Alex Cross. Anybody see the Alex Cross character? So we have we have Cross coming as well in the fall, and it's really good. And those are the two things I'm really most excited about coming in the fall.
Okay. Well, we're excited to have had you here to talk it through, what you've got on your slate. Thank you for piecing together a very broad and everything.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Store, it would seem. Thank you so
it.
much, Mike. What a joy.